Hello and welcome. My name is Davis Bitsky. I'm a developer evangelist for Amazon focused on apps and games. In today's screencast, we're going to look at adding in-app purchases to our web apps for the Amazon Appstore. If you've been following along in these series, you've probably seen us go ahead and create a new web app, submit it to the portal, test and debug it, and now we're ready to go ahead and monetize that web app through Amazon. Monetizing your web app is free, as are all registrations with the Amazon Appstore. You simply go to developer.amazon.com. You can set up an account, and there's no annual subscription costs. There's also no restrictions on any kind of monetization techniques you're currently using on your mobile website. If you so choose, we offer a free in-app purchase API that I will cover in this screencast. This API allows you to sell digital goods and subscriptions, things like expansion packs, and it also takes advantage of Amazon coins. So let's go ahead and look at the types of things that we can sell. So there are three things that you can sell through your app on the Amazon App Store. You can sell consumables. So think of these as digital goods. These may be power-ups or lives in your game. Entitlements. So entitlements are something you buy once, and then you have access across all of your devices that you've deployed this app to. Typically, you may see something like a free or a pro version, and upgrading to the pro version perhaps maybe removes ads or gives me unlimited use. And then we have the ability to do subscriptions. So if you have consumable content, media content, maybe in a magazine format, and you want a subscription based for your web app, you can do that as well. Now, in-app purchasing for web apps work exactly the same way for Android apps. So everything that I'm showing you here in the next couple of slides is the same across all of the in-app purchases, regardless of whether you're doing web or Android. And there are a couple of different responsibilities. So what you're going to be responsible for in your app is presenting a catalog of items, unlocking the functionality, downloading the remotely delivered content, and displaying and using the downloaded digital goods. I'm going to show you what this actually looks like in JavaScript and what it looks like on the actual device in a second, but I thought it would be important to walk you through all of these steps for those who haven't seen in-app purchasing. And then you also need to think about the Amazon App Store client and how it needs to manage the purchase flow. And these things map back and forth that you're going to see in calls. So in a live environment, so if this is published in the actual App Store, the Amazon App Store client, and in the case of web apps, it's an actual JavaScript file, is going to do all of the work for us. When we run stuff locally in our test environment, we're going to use something called the SDK Tester. Now, the SDK Tester is not available in the Amazon App Store. You actually get it as part of the Amazon App Store SDK you would download. So let me show you where to get that. On developer.amazon.com, which you can see up here, we're going to go click on SDK and Tools. And when I click there, you'll see a Download SDK button. This is going to have everything that you need across all of the free Amazon developer services. And so if I open up my local Finder window and show you what's actually in this, you'll see one of those folders is called Web, one is iOS, and one is Android. We're going to take a look in this web folder in a little bit. It's basically just filled with samples today because you don't need any specific code. All of the code for in-app purchasing is a JavaScript file we host. But underneath Android, in-app purchasing tools, and let me go ahead and highlight that, is where the APK is for the Amazon SDK Tester. This is a tool that you're going to load on your local device like you would any other APK. So you can use the Android transfer tool. You could go into Eclipse and deploy it there, however you want to load it on your device. But on your device, let me zoom over here, turn it on. And let's unlock it. go to the front. You'll see the SDK Tester tool. And so we're going to need to run this to do any kind of in-app purchasing. So just make sure that you set that up first. And the way that an in-app purchase is going to work through the JavaScript API is you're basically going to have an app purchase handler, and you're going to call out to the Amazon service JS. I'm going to show you what that code actually looks like that we're pulling from the web. So let's just take a quick look at some of the APIs before I drop into the code. Every call that you're going to initiate from the Amazon service is going to have a response object, and that object is going to let you call some things on it. So the first thing is you can get the user ID response, and this is going to allow us to get an app-specific user ID so that we can make sure moving forward, if they've purchased content, it's on all their devices. You're going to have a purchase update response. So this is going to give you a list of receipts and other purchases, as well as revoked SKUs since the last offset. And you're going to get an item data response. So you're going to get information keyed by SKUs about any data that's coming across, and then the purchase response. The purchase response is going to give you different types of status like succeeded, pending, or failed. And then there's a couple other purchase handlers. Now, if we were doing this in Android, we would need to implement all of these handlers. The only thing we need to do with a web app is include the JavaScript file. And you're going to see a lot of this, there's already boilerplate code that we can just bring down. So on SDK available, the first thing you need to make sure is that they have the in-app purchasing services ready. We're going to also check to see if we're in sandbox mode. So you're going to see in a second, what I do is I set up an alert box that says I'm in test mode so that I know I'm actually testing locally. And then on get user ID response, we're going to get the user ID, and then so on and so on. So you can see we can get data, we can get purchase, and we can update the response. So an example of what this would actually look like in JavaScript that you can add to your own mobile website, we're calling into the Amazon web app and then enable API tester function. And that function takes a variable called Amazon WA tester. And then we're going to go down, and you can see I have different functions here for clicking a button. Now this is all part of the button handler SDK sample you just saw as part of the Amazon SDK. We'll load that up in a second, and then I'll walk you through how it works. But you can see what we're doing is we're simply calling into the enable API tester, and then we're registering an observer. So you can see right here, as long as the SDK is available, if we get back a response that we're in a sandbox, we're going to go throw up an alert that says running in test mode. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and get the purchase updates with the offset from the beginning. And then you can see these are the other responses that we're just implementing down here with no functionality currently. Okay, so let's take a look at what all of that looks like. We're going to come over to WebStorm. And this is the button clicker SDK sample. So you can see up here, this is from the same download that we got off of developer.amazon.com. Underneath that web folder, there was a samples folder. The sample, if you want to follow along, that I'm looking at is button clicker. We're going to open up index.html. You can see it's an HTML file. And then at the top, immediately you'll see we have two different Amazon Web App API JavaScript libraries. So the first one is the full API, and the second one is actually a web version of the tester. This allows you to test in-app purchases in a browser in addition to doing it on an actual device. And I'm going to show you both. And then we're also making a reference to the buttonclicker.js file. So like any good developer, the first thing that I did when I saw this URL was open it up in a browser. And so let me show you what that looks like over here. Here is the web API. And then this one is the web API tester. So that variable that you saw in the code, the Amazon WA tester, that variable is actually being set for you in this JS file. And that's what gets passed into that function when you initialize. Let's close this. And then you can see the rest of this is going to mock up functionality for actually purchasing. So I've got mock up the JavaScript in-app purchasing bindings. I've got information that returns a user ID. So all of this is set so that it actually returns what the API is expecting and allows you to test this inside of a browser. You can see we're also doing things here to mock up game circle bindings. And then the API itself over here, you can see this is where everything is implemented in the API that you would call from JavaScript. So all of my callbacks, all of my response objects, everything is in here. The actual Amazon in-app purchasing API, you can say, is set up as a prototype. I've got my purchasing observer, item types, status, and so on. So like any other JavaScript library, you're free to browse and see all of the code that's actually happening right here on the web. Now let's take a look at the website itself. So I've got an index.html. You can see I've got 3 buttons, red, green, and blue, and then a main button. And what this application is going to do is it's going to give us in-app purchases to change the color of the button. So I can change the button from its original, just whatever web color your browser is giving, into red, green, or blue. And then I'm also going to get a certain number of clicks. And those clicks, I believe, are either 9 or 10. And when those clicks run out, I'm giving the opportunity to buy more clicks. You can see the button's CSS file is just applying some simple styles. So we've got background color red, blue, and green, as well as what the active color is based on our in-app purchase. Then let's look at buttonclicker.js. And we'll scroll up here. So I've got some states. I've got refresh paid state, and I'm looking to set things to be either locked or active based on the receipt from an in-app purchase. We're going to scroll down. And you're going to see when we actually show the buy button, we're giving it a SKU. So our SKUs are sample red button, sample green button, a sample blue button with a subscription for 1 month, and sample clicks. And then we're calling into that Amazon Web Apps in-app purchase item. We're also getting an on-purchase receipt, whether it's already successful or they've had it already. We're calling handle receipt, which you can see down here. Now everything is going to be stored locally, so we're just storing into local storage for the web app, what is been purchased and what hasn't for our receipts. You may want to implement it in a different way. There's nothing to say you can't implement all of that server side as well in your own mobile app. Now these SKUs, where these SKUs are coming from, when we test, is a file called amazon.sdktester.json. You can see that over here on the left. So that's included with this sample. And these are the SKUs that I'm offering for purchase. You can see a red button, green button, the blue button subscription for 1 month, and the clicks. Now, if you're testing on a website, because we have the JavaScript tester that you just saw, it's going to need to find this file in the same directory that the website is hosted in. So because it's right here in the root, next to index, you're fine, and you'll be able to test in the web. On an actual device, let me pull up my device. Switch over here a sec. You need to make sure that it's in your SD storage. So you can see I've actually copied it down. And then right here, you can see I've copied that JSON file over. As long as that's on your local device in SD storage, the app SDK tester is going to find that when we run. And this is going to give us the ability to test both on our device as well as on the web. Okay, so let's switch back. Let's go back to our EC2 server here. I'm going to show you what I've done. Under our www root folder, you'll notice I have a new folder I call the button. And I've taken that SDK sample and I've moved it up to my website. And you can see here, Amazon SDK Tester. It's our same SKUs, red button, green button, our buttons, index, and JS file. Let's move over here to our browser. We'll zoom in. So everybody see it's my EC2 instance, and then that same button folder. And if you remember, when we initialized our in-app purchase API, we tested to see if we were actually in test mode and we set up that alert, or if we were actually running on a device. So you're seeing that alert box right now for running in test mode. That was down here, if you recall. Right here. So that same alert box, you can see it's finding out that we are in fact in test mode, and now we can go ahead and test out some in-app purchases. So switch back over to our browser, we'll hit OK. And if I click this button, you'll notice over here, the clicks left is at 9. I'm going to hit this button, and now you can see it's at 8 or 7. I can come in here and say I want to unlock the green button. Now this is the mock-up from the JavaScript file that allows you to test in the browser itself. So that's 99 cents. And you may be asking yourself, Dave, where was that set up? If you remember over here in our SDK tester, the green button was set for 99 cents. We're going to click this button. We're going to process it. I'm going to close the window. And now you can see rather than it being locked, it's actually set to green. And if I hit green, it's now active. And now my button is green. So very easy way to purchase in-app things like colors for our button. Now let's go ahead and click this enough times that we're going to see buy more clicks in the middle. This is our alert box. And you remember from the code, once we ran out of clicks, we'd ask them to buy more. So I can get 10 clicks for 99 cents. I'm going to say yes, hit close, and now you can see I have 10 more clicks. Nice and easy way to test. So let's look at what that actually looks like on a device. We'll come over here. Now the first thing we need to do is load up our SDK Tester app. Remember, this is the app that allows you to test in-app purchases on a device. Let me try and zoom in here so everybody can see. And I apologize, the focus isn't necessarily the best. But this top bar up here, this is actually saying active transact. Oops, let's move this down. And let's try zoom 3. I think that might be a little better. This one right here is active transactions. This is change user, and this is interactive mode. So if I hit at the top and I hit active transactions, you can see this is listing things that I've already purchased. So I've already purchased a green button in the past. And because that is stored, the next time that I run the application, I'll see that. I can change the user. So let me hit the back button here. And so it's set by default to default user. You could go in as another user. So while you're testing, if you want to reset all of your purchases, you have that ability. And let's hit back. And then I have interactive mode. And what interactive mode will do is it'll allow you in a test scenario to set up what you want to return. So rather than it always saying that it's been purchased, you can say already installed, you could say invalid SKU or failed, and you can set that up for everything. I'll hit back. So we've got this SDK tester running. Let's go ahead into the, let me zoom out here for you. Here we go. So SDK tester is running. We're going to go into our app tester. And we're going to load our button. So this is our button sample down here. And this is the same URL that you notice we just did up here. Let's move this. Inside of our Firefox browser. So now we're going to hit that same exact mobile website. Let me just click on the tab. You can see up here was a button. This is the one we just bought the clicks. So we tested it out on the web. And now we're going to test it out on a device. Let me hit Amazon Web View. And you'll see I'm getting the same button now that says running in test mode. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to do a new in-app purchase. I'm going to do red. So I'll hit red. Let me zoom in for you here. So you can see We're getting the message for red button, 99 cents. This is set through the JSON file now locally. I'm going to say purchase the red button, please. You'll see, thank you for purchasing red button. Close this, and you will see that our red button has now been unlocked right over here. So we're going to go ahead and hit red, and now our button's red. And then you can see here, as we go ahead and click down, all of those clicks are moving down. So this is the SDK sample deployed live on our own mobile website running on EC2, and then running locally as an app we can deploy to the Amazon Appstore through the web app tester tool, and then using the SDK tester tool to simulate in-app purchases. Let's go ahead and move out of here. And I'm going to go back. And we're going to switch here to the SDK tester tool. And I just want to show you now, when I look at active transactions, you'll see the transactions that we just built. So let me try and zoom in a little bit here for you. So you'll see we also have both the green button and the red button. And this red button is the one that we just purchased. Okay. We've now implemented the in-app purchasing API inside of our web app that we'll be hosting on the Amazon Appstore. If you'd like additional information, you can check out our site at developer.amazon.com. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and you can also read our posts on our blog at developer.amazon.com/blog. Thank you for watching this screencast today.